Boko Haram kills nurse, threatens to kill Dapchi schoolgirl Leah Sharibu. Court summons Senate President Bukola Saraki over fresh criminal complaint of a robbery case. In international news, U.S. imposes new tariffs on $200 billion of Chinese goods as trade war escalates. And in sport, FIFA CAF name observers to NFF Executive Committee elections Thursday.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Boko Haram has killed one of the health workers, Saifura Kosa, working with the International Committee of the Red Cross, whom they kidnapped in Ikala Bauge, Borno State. They shot her dead from the rear. Boko Haram has also threatened to kill Leah Sharibu, the only remaining Dapchi schoolgirl still in their captivity. 4 soldiers, policemen and 3 aid workers were killed in the attack. The sergeants claimed they had contacted the government over the captives, but it did not respond. The international community of the Red Cross has condemned the killings, describing it as brutal. Edo State Ministry of Health has confirmed that Lassa fever has killed a woman in Umolu community in Ndokwa East local government area of the state. Her condition deteriorated after admission to Kwali General Hospital last month and was transferred to the Federal Medical Center in Asaba. Chairman of the Delta PHDA said laboratory tests confirmed she had died from Lassa fever. The other 2 patients are said to be currently under medical care and responding to treatment. Of a bank robbery case is back in the news as an Abuja court has ordered that a summons be served on Senate President Bukola Saraki to face a criminal complaint against him by a lawyer in respect of the bank robbery attack. His sole defendant in the complaint. Police say their investigation has linked Saraki to the kingpin of the robbery operation. The suit wants Saraki summoned for allegedly ignoring police invitation involving the investigation of the suspects. The court says it is an offense punishable under the Penal Code. The National Assembly has started work on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that President Buhari rejected and sent back to the legislature over drafting issues. The chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, Senator Suleiman Nazif, says this is the 5th time the committee would be working on the bill and the resolution by the National Assembly will be announced next week. He says the bill usurped INEC's constitutional powers to decide on election matters, including fixing of dates. The People's Democratic Party has fixed Thursday for the screening of the party's presidential aspirants to have a consensus candidate. The party's Board of Trustees is scheming for a possibility to have a consensus flag bearer amidst the bigwigs who have shown interest in flying the party's banner. The 12-man panel is headed by Senator Walid Jubril. 13 aspirants are jostling to become the party's presidential candidate for next year's presidential election. For now, no aspirant has decided to step down for another. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has stopped investigations into the case of former Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun's alleged NYSC fake certificates matter. Adeosun had admitted that the NYSC exemption certificate was not genuine, but that she did not obtain it herself. It was put together for her by her handlers. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice Adamu Abdulkafarati, has barred judges of the court from granting ex parte orders in political cases. Justice Kafarati has also given an October deadline to judges to conclude political cases with likely effects on candidates to next year's election. The Chief Judge said the decision is in line with measures put in place to curb any hiccup and end the blame on the court by those who called political gladiators. Justice Kafarati said presently there are more than 100,000 cases pending in the courts across all its divisions. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said voters will not be allowed to go into polling booths with their phones, cameras or other devices that can record video or take pictures. The commission said this ahead of Osun governorship election on Saturday. It says this will reduce the issue of vote buying and vote selling, which has been adopted by politicians as a new strategy to rig elections. The commission said voters can make use of their cameras and phones before being issued ballot papers. The commission has promised that election materials and officials would arrive at voting polling units on Saturday. Ekiti State Election Petition Tribunal, hearing petitions from the July 14 governorship election in the state, has relocated to Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. The High Court handling the petition says insecurity is the major reason for the relocation. The petitioner, PDP candidate Kolapo Olushola, is challenging the declaration of Kayode Fayemi as elected governor. The tribunal says the lawyer's life has been threatened around the court by some unruly crowds. The panel says it won't tolerate any act inimical to the smooth running of the tribunal regarding the hearing and dispensation of judgment within 180 days stipulated by the appeal court. Oil-rich Ogoni community has raised alarm that oil has taken over their rivers, causing fishes and crabs to die or migrate. The residents say oil is floating on the river, contaminating their drinking water supply. They're calling on the government to step in to avert disease epidemic and casualty. Central Bank of Nigeria stepped up the campaign to rid the country of dirty notes, make lower denominations available to people, and stem the tide of racketeering in new notes. The approved lower denominations include all denominations from 200 naira to the lowest. CBN says the disbursement was to guard against abuse or diversion and curtail the scarcity of the lower naira denominations due to hoarding or by unscrupulous people. CBN further says it is a criminal offense to abuse or counterfeit the naira. The offense carries a mandatory 5-year jail term without an option of fine. The United Nations Children's Fund says Nigeria loses more than 400 billion naira annually to poor sanitation. UNICEF says the federal government would need 200 billion naira for the realization of open defecation-free Nigeria by 2025. UNICEF also says Das and Waraji in Bauchi State and Obaniko in Cross River are the only local governments in Nigeria to have attained the open defecation-free status. Coming up, news around Africa. Top militia chief surrenders in DRC's Kasai region. And later, U.S.-China trade war continues as U.S. slams new tariffs on China's goods.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to African stories. Armed men attacked a school in Cameroon's southwest English-speaking region, leaving more than 20 persons wounded. Southwest Region Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai said on Monday an unknown number of armed men using machete and homemade guns staged the attack on St. Joseph's College near Buye, but no one was killed. The wounded children were rushed to the hospitals and hundreds of parents started pulling their children from schools. Armed separatists used social media to warn parents against sending their children to school last month, but the government assured the parents it had taken enough security measures to protect the schools. At least 70 schools have been touched since crisis began in Cameroon's English-speaking northwest and southwest areas in 2016. Teachers and lawyers had protested at the time against alleged overbearing use of the French language in the bilingual country. Separatists then took up the cause and arms, demanding a separate English-speaking state they call Ambazonia. Democratic Republic of the Congo top chief who led a coalition of armed military groups had surrendered in the central Kasai region with hundreds of youth fighters. Ndaye Kalonga Nzabanga turned himself in with many followers after he agreed to negotiations 3 days ago. A government official said of the 8 military leaders who have been identified, 7 surrendered on Saturday to a government delegation led by the provincial minister of Interior. A military source said some 600 youths presented as military fighters also turned themselves in with 8 AK-47 assault rifles, 45 12-gauge shotguns and a number of clubs as well as amulets. The International Criminal Court confirmed on Monday a 1-year sentence against Congolese former Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba for bribing witnesses during an earlier trial. The ICC also fined him $350,000 for witness tampering, but his jail term was reduced to 0 for time already served. Bemba was acquitted of war crimes on appeal. As a result of the conviction, he has been barred from contesting in December's presidential election in DR Congo, in which he would have been one of the front runners challenging the ruling coalition. Libyan authorities have closed the only functioning airport in the capital, Tripoli, on Monday. Traffic has been diverted nearby military-controlled city of Misrata. The move came after the UN-backed Tripoli government handed control of the facility from one militia to another, prompting the Transport Ministry to order its closure on security concerns. Deputy Transport Minister called the closing of Mitiga Airport unfortunate. He said that in the past, authorities have found some items in the airport that have threatened travelers' safety. The UK government has frozen all funding to Zambia, citing alleged fraud and corruption. British High Commissioner to Zambia, Fergus Korchendret, confirmed the announcement in a tweet. He said UK aid has zero tolerance for fraud and corruption. Financial news site Bloomberg reported that the UK is historically Zambia's biggest donor. Africa Confidential reports that the British government is seeking a refund of $4 million aid money allegedly embezzled by Zambian officials. The same report also states that Finland, Sweden, Ireland and UNICEF have frozen aid to Zambia because of alleged corruption and have privately asked for refunds. The Zambian government has yet to respond to the report. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has vowed to expose those undermining the unity of the governing African National Congress. Ramaphosa was addressing trade unions outside Johannesburg following reports of an alleged plot to unseat him. In recent days, the ANC has been rattled by newspaper reports alleging that senior officials have been meeting in secret with the country's former president, Jacob Zuma, looking for ways to weaken or kick out Ramaphosa. ANC's factional battles are becoming increasingly bitter and sometimes violent. Africa's oldest liberation party, ANC, is looking to retain power in national elections next year. It was an all-shucks moment at Nairobi Airport on Monday when demonstrations by elite sniffer dogs went awry. the animals couldn't deflect illicit goods. Kenya revenue authorities had set up the event at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to showcase the dog's ability, or inabilities. Many Kenyans now question whether the animals are worth the reported monthly cost per dog of more than $500 of taxpayers' money. Social media is agog, mocking the botched-up demonstration. When we return, U.S. imposes new tariffs on $200 billion of Chinese goods. And later, FIFA CAF name observers for NFF elections.
You are watching ANN.
MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM. That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
I am Lucy Adeyemi.
I am Rotimi Akitunde.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji.
We bring you
The news
On ANN News.
Business,
politics,
Global News.
Watch ANN News
In a truly African spirit.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, Leah, to your right? Keep walking down, keep walking to the left, yes? You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump has ramped up the trade war between his country and China by imposing another 10% on Chinese products heading to the U.S. European allies are warning of the negative effects this back and forth can have on global economy. ANN Lucy Adeyemi reports.
Apart from warnings from the international community, an American economist has warned as well that this trade war will ultimately hurt the United States. Arthur Dung, professor of economics and strategy at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., said in a television interview that the trade war cannot bring economic benefit to the United States.
This more serious episode in terms of the elevation of the trade wars with China is certainly not going to help the United States with regard to its overall economic prospects. And this disengagement with the world and certainly disengagement with China in the long run is going to hurt us.
Dung believes as the dispute escalates, consumers would end up paying the price.
The consumers, particularly those at the lower to moderate income levels who have to stretch their salaries and stretch their payroll in every which way possible, are going to find it more difficult to get on with the daily accommodations of life.
Meanwhile, because China also has business ties with other major economies, including several U.S. allies, the China-U.S. trade war may also impact their interests.
China is an economy economy that is also fundamentally interwoven with so many different economies in terms of the supplies. So if you take all the products that China makes, a good portion of all the products that they source, from raw materials to minerals to energy, comes from other countries, and many of those countries are American allies. Japan, Germany, Western Europe, South Korea, they are all going to feel the effects.
U.S. allies have just about given up on Trump as he has defied all their caution. It remains to be seen where all this leads. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
While the world sleeps, ANN News stays awake. News takes no time off. We are awake so you can sleep. We report the stories that keep you up to date, events that affect your day, your week, month, and experiences. We scour the world, bringing it to your living room. Watch ANN News in a truly African spirit.
There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. Fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. African News Network, ANN, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News, now sport. World Football Governing Body FIFA and the Confederation of African Football CAF have released the names of their observer delegation to the NFF elections scheduled for Thursday. Luca Piazza, senior official in the FIFA President's Office, and Solomon Mudege, FIFA's senior manager for development programs, FIFA's observers, while CAF designated a member of its executive committee, Sita Sangara, an army colonel and president of Burkina Faso Football Federation. The Libyan Football Federation have opted for Tunisia rather than Algeria as the host country for the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Libya and Nigeria will meet in back-to-back Group E matches next month, but no stadium in Tunisia has been confirmed yet. Libya cannot host nations in their country because of continuing political instability. That's ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other stories, visit our website in www.annafrica.net. Conversation continues on the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great evening.